Boy, my boy, it feels good to have Superman and Lois back, especially with such an explosive episode. So guys, let's talk about Superman and Lois, episode 14, The Eradicator. How's it going, my fellow Kryptonians? Welcome to what feels like an age, because this keeps happening with the Superman and Lois breaks, a brand new Superman and Lois breakdown. This is for episode 14, as I just said in that intro, the Eradicator, and that is a very relevant title, considering the Eradicator was just unleashing Man of Steel vibes this episode in terms of Metropolis level destruction. I was quite surprised by that, but without rambling too much, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out my Stargirl season 2 episode 1 breakdown video. I've already done my non-spoiler review for the first 6 episodes, but the actual spoiler breakdown for episode 1 is now out. I'm dying to hear your thoughts on that, but of course this is the Superman and Lois video, so let's get right into this. But before we do, go ahead and like it. If you do go on to enjoy this video, it really does help me out. And of course, don't forget that I have my Titans breakdown videos coming out tomorrow and Friday. The first 2 episodes tomorrow, and then the 3rd episode breakdown Friday. Make sure you don't miss it, because Titans season 3, whether you've hated it or loved it in the past, it is regardless a massive step up. So you guys are not going to want to miss the death in the family storyline this season. But yes, that beginning of the episode, we can't forget with how it ended in the last episode quite a few weeks back now, with Morgan Edge, Tal-Rho becoming the Eradicator, and it picks up right there. We hear the voices saying, "You are the Eradicator, become the Eradicator, our home was ruined." I mean, I've seen this comment before, but and I'm sure it is just a select few Kryptonians, but the more I see these other Kryptonians, the more they are just all dicks. It's like the House of L, the only good family on Krypton. I mean, it's obviously a joke, but seriously though. But this is also 3 weeks later now, in the next scene. Lois and Clark were worrying about the boys, considering Morgan Edge is out there. I mean, to be honest, yeah, I mean, going to sleep every night after that, knowing Morgan Edge has escaped and could literally burst through to the campfire. Like, Morgan Edge, even though he's not Morgan Edge anymore, the Eradicator knows all of Superman's memories. And that is pretty kind of not overpowered, but even though he's not humane anymore, the Eradicator knows anything and everything, and that's why I'm so glad with what happened at the end of this episode, because the stakes are really, really high. And we also have General Lane, who isn't happy with the DoD being called an occupying force in Smallville, and Smallville, man, it was already kind of a dying town, but right now it is completely eating itself alive, and the DoD's presence isn't helping. And I do like the perspectives from General Lane's side. I think he could be more transparent, but from his perspective, this is what I mean. I feel like the writing in Superman and Lois does a really good job at showing both sides of an understandable situation in a lot of various different situations throughout this season. And this one, obviously General Lane is thinking, well, I can't say too much to Smallville, or that he can't leave but until it's safe, because then that will cause a mass panic with the people of Smallville wondering why they can't leave and what isn't safe. But Clark arrives in the next scene at Lana's open house. Now, I don't know if anyone else can tell this. This is definitely, we've got extra episodes this season, episode 14 and 15, I believe, and I felt like I could already tell that this was extra stuff, because where we left off with Lana and Kyle, unless I'm being an idiot here, I'm pretty sure they kind of concluded in their storyline as of the last episode that they weren't going to be beaten by Smallville, or they're not going to be pushed out. But now the kind of tune has changed, and that is kind of organic at the same time. 3 weeks have gone by, maybe they've been through more rough crap, and they're like, you know what, we're going to sell the house. I just felt like at the end of the last episode, they were edging a lot more towards staying. This was a nice scene. I really do appreciate stuff like this, especially from the Smallville watchers. Obviously, this isn't a continuation of Smallville, but the Smallville show did a good essence of Clark and Lana's relationship, and this, I really like the casting for Lana, and obviously Tyler Hoechlin as Clark Kent. So when we had that little moment between them when, they were saying, when you left, I would have done anything to keep you here, but you needed a fresh start, and that's what we need too, and how Clark refers to her as his best friend and whatnot, and how even with his mum gone, she's the heart of Smallville. It's just makes me feel wholesome. Like good old Clark and Lana stuff. And we almost had a little close moment between Sarah and Jordan outside, because he said that your mum seems pretty set on leaving Smallville and whatnot, and she's just like, wait, how did you hear that? So obviously his super hearing, but she has absolutely no idea. Now, as you guys know, my favorite characters on the show being Lois and Jonathan, we get some scenes with Jonathan, which, yet again, I really like the storyline they're trying to give him here, but they still always find a way to make you feel bad about him. So we have John with John Henry Irons, and he's just kind of getting parred off not to ask questions. He seems quite impatient with Jonathan, and he says, what's the deal with, the bug thing on the suit, and that was Natalie's idea. And he's just a kid saying, oh, she helped you build your war suit. That's awesome. But, like, this is when he just gets kind of very adult, kind of grounded, like, that isn't awesome. She was a girl who's 14 years old, who had a mum killed on live TV, and her whole childhood, like, it's just like, I get what you're saying, but he's just a kid, man, like, give him a bit of a break. He didn't mean it in that way. But yeah, poor John ultimately is the takeaway from this moment, because what I liked about this is that it seems that until he does get some actual Kryptonian molecular DNA mutation that comes into fruition, which I know it hasn't happened yet, but you have to think it is coming at some point in the longevity of this show. They're giving him the story of, oh, he's the kid in a super family, in a super dramatic kind of world, as in super meta-human filled world. Your dad's freaking Superman. So he's the one guy for now without powers, kind of like his mother, like mother like son, with in this kind of parallel on the show between those two characters. But he's also trying to be the one like who equips with weapons, like John Henry Irons, or is trying to get into a way to defend himself. And I really like that. We've had this so far, like when he shot Kyle when they were in the barn, when Kyle was taken over, if you guys remember. So they're just kind of keeping along that little story for Jonathan, even though he kind of got rejected here from John Henry Irons. But moving onwards, talking about Smallville eating itself up, and already the small town dying, and especially with the DoD presence and all the crap that's going on with Morgan Edge coming in to save it, but everyone realized that Morgan Edge is a bastard. Things are just getting even worse, and the Smallville Gazette, Chrissy reveals that she got an offer to sell it. They're going broke. The tiny subscriber base that she had before is even tinier after the events of Morgan Edge, and yeah, like, it's just, what I like here is this is the beginning of a good story for Lois to try and take it back. Now obviously with all the other crap and action we got this episode, they didn't have too much more time this episode to go into how it's obviously not I mean, it's obvious that she's not gonna sell it, but I'm guessing with like the reporting that Lois did in this episode and everything else, I'm wondering if in the next episode, which will continue that destruction, I'm sure, if Lois is going to like kind of credit her news reporting to the Smallville Gazette. It's like, hey guys, by the way, shout out to Smallville Gazette, that's where I'm working now. Obviously it's not going to go exactly that way, but I am intrigued with not much time left of this season, how they're going to kind of turn things around for that. But after this, we cut back to Morgan Edge, again, draining the sun, and this time he's being engulfed in this kind of blue energy, and we hear that it's done, a worthy sacrifice. Let us begin, the time has come, Krypton will be reborn, and that's when you see these little face fractures of blue energy. He is essentially the character of the Eradicator now, not the Eradicator so much from the source material, it's kind of basically like a new slate OG character for this show, but I really like it at the same time because it introduced the anarchy in Metropolis a little bit later on. It is one thing I do understand with some people's comments saying it is kind of similar to some stories that they have done before, but what I like with what Superman and Lois is, while acknowledging that, lots of people were saying that they would have preferred Morgan Edge to actually just be human, or his plan was too like Zod and stuff. Look, with all that aside, I like the fact that they've given their own stroke of paint on it, and they've kind of taken like this amalgamation of ideas that you guys have been mentioning, some of you at least, and kind of, just thrown it out the wall, see what sticks with the Superman and Lois sign over it. Now, I feel like they've done a decent job at that. But at this point in the episode, it's when Clark and Lois go to the Smallville High School, because that's where there's a big protest going on, where General Lane is meant to kind of answer some, well, it's basically a big Q&A, but people are not happy. They are not happy at the DoD's presence. Now, initially I thought, okay, so like, this seems a little bit artificial for me. It's like, if the soldiers are in your town, from my perspective, it's like, well, at least you would feel like you're being protected from something, so why is everyone screaming? But I felt like once they got into it, they did a good job at how they articulated that the soldier presence is running businesses out of town. Not many people obviously want to come in when there's a shite ton of Department of Defense military there and whatnot. Yeah, so I do get that. It's just at first I thought, well, you ungrateful Smallville folk, you should be happy that you're being protected. But there is a lot of context there. Like, as I said, the town is crumbling, and especially when they brought in Derek Powell's mother, that just hammered it in even more, because this is like a reflection of real world stuff at the same time. I don't want to get too political here, but sometimes transparency is often not so transparent, shall we say, for good reasons that General Lane said about not wanting to cause mass panic. But sometimes transparency can go as far as you should be transparent with, like, a mother of a child in that situation. It's kind of like the ethical decision. Do you kind of go forward with telling her what happened there, or kind of resist giving information for the sake of the better good of not causing a massive panic and stuff? I found all of this quite an organic thing going on, but then you also have Lois Lane right in the center of it, and she kind of goes behind her dad's back because this was getting out of hand. She said the people deserve to know. So she reveals that Edge managed to escape that holding facility a few weeks ago, and since then Superman and the DoD have been working diligently to try and track him down, but as of right now, obviously his whereabouts are unknown, so everyone starts thinking, oh shit, should we be worried that he's going to come back to Smallville? Obviously that is a concern, but as I said, that's when Derek Powell's mother comes in, and it's just like, well, the DoD does know a lot more than what they're saying, because you knew exactly how my son died and how he died, so you're not being fully transparent. So overall, like a good kind of complicated scene, and we will revisit this in a moment. But meanwhile, with the Cushing family, this first started off as a conversation between Lana and Kyle about, you know, are we making a mistake leaving Smallville? And Kyle was just like, look, at the end of the day, we don't have much choice. Not everyone is out to get us, but yeah, the Kents, as much as they are great to us, they're not going to put food on our table, so realistically, you know, maybe we do have to find another place to call home. So this continued on when he went to the fire station to get his stuff there, and he speaks to Tamara. She details that he's always had her back, and she was hoping that if he proved that the people at the fire station were wrong about her, then maybe they could do it again, just with him. And this is what I mean, it's a bit to and fro. It's like, then he gets home, and it's like, they realize that maybe they should stay, and maybe Lana is right. Maybe this isn't the right call. We've built so much here, scary to think of walking away from all this, but then he gets the job, he gets a call, and he's been offered a job in a different city. So it's like, now, maybe this is the best opportunity for us. So they go to reveal this to Sarah, who was pretty settled on the fact that, yeah, nobody's going to move to Smallville and you know, in this situation, and I doubt they're going to, yeah, basically that she just thought they weren't going to move away, but when it was revealed, she was not happy because she just thinks her parents are now quite hypocritical at running at the first sign of trouble. And once again, there are two sides to this. Sarah does make a good point of how they themselves have said that people, you know, are abandoning Smallville and they shouldn't necessarily do that, but the minute it gets hard for them, they're kind of out of here. But, you know, it's a bit of a sticky situation, but as I always say, I care a lot more about the Cushing story than quite a lot of other people do. It grounds the show in the heart of Smallville, or should I say the Smallville town. The characters, if you will, are kind of personified through the Cushing family, at least mainly Lana and Kyle. But let's talk about the party, because at the diner they were invited to a party. Sarah doesn't go initially, but this is when Jonathan and Jordan go. Jordan gets a call from Granddad, but Jonathan actually tells him not to answer, because they're kind of like, what if something comes up? But he's repeating what John Henry Irons said to him. Maybe we should just be a normal kid for at least an hour. In this moment, I think we all knew, oh god, like something might happen, because we know stuff's going down in Metropolis, and now they're ignoring a call. It's kind of predictable. Nothing technically did happen at the party, but you knew it was being set up to go somewhere. Plus, they did have the ELT device as well to call Superman if anything did go wrong. So, you know, to be fair with Jonathan, I didn't really disagree with him. I probably would have done the same thing if I was at a party at that age. And this is when Tegan comes in, and to be honest, I was like, ugh, not again. But I was pleasantly surprised, because she does admit that she was fishing for answers, and I was happy that Jonathan did kind of say stuff quite frankly, and how she said that he may have got the wrong impression of her out by the water tower, but he was like, no, I don't think I did, to be honest. I don't think I did. But anyway, the point I'm trying to get to is we get a bit more into her character, and, you know, behind that kind of attitude that she kind of gives off, that she even says a lot of people make assumptions about her. She details to him that she moved here away from Central City. Her father got put in prison, maybe by the Flash for all we know. And it's not really something she tells most people, but at the end of the day, they kind of have something to relate about now. And the vibes are certainly there, the flirty kind of vibes. And apparently she did kind of like him all along in a way. Either way, I think her intentions are honest here, and I'm just happy that Jonathan's kind of got somebody to get a little bit closer to now. She seems nice enough now. We've had that conversation, getting a little bit deeper into her character. But I'm just interested to see where this goes, because it's going to have to be different from Sarah and Jordan, surely, because with Sarah and Jordan, it's like, oh, you know, they seem nice together and stuff like that. They seem cute together, but is she going to find out the secret? With Jonathan, it's going to be like, oh, you know, is she going to find out the secret? So I wonder what differences they're going to make if both the boys have relationships, especially especially going in season 2, since we're kind of right at the end now. But meanwhile, we have Leslie Larr in the Kryptonian holding cell, and there's gunfire, soldiers screaming, and basically the Eradicator arrives to bust her out. But going back to the meeting, as I said, at the worst possible time, this is when General Lane gets informed about the Leslie Larr situation and how the Eradicator is out there, and this is the worst possible time to leave, because just as you have the mother of Derek Powell there just kind of really begging to know what truly happened to her son, and everybody's just starting to get the taste for answers, they walk out, and they have to, but it just looks really bad. I do want to mention, I know I always mention this, but Elizabeth Tulloch's acting was phenomenal when Derek Powell's mother was saying you have no idea what it's like to lose a child, and you had kind of Clark look over to her, and technically she hasn't lost a child. Well, I mean, she has, but she hasn't lost one in the same fashion as Derek Powell, who died. And they really got into that, if you guys remember in that flashback, with how much that like, it was truly, that episode was something special when we saw Lois seeing that therapist. So she does have a semblance of what it's like to lose somebody who you were really looking forward to meet in the world. And like, it almost breaks my heart remembering that acting from that scene when she was saying all of that to the therapist. But so yeah, once again, it just kind of brings up those notes again, if none of you thought to think back to that. So now they're in that little DOD kind of tent area. Steele says that Smallville isn't their target. He's in Metropolis, like on John Henry Irons' Earth. It looks like all of that portion of, you know, the destruction of his world is starting to happen now. But anyway, in this moment, Superman and Steele head to Metropolis with Lois, because she just teleported there very quickly, but I'm guessing that's because Superman took her there with her. And yeah, this is when they see Leslie Larr just standing there with Morgan Edge, well, should I say the Eradicator, with his face completely fractured. And then, surprise, surprise, it turns out there's 4 Kryptonians in the crowd. I thought that was a very good move, because you have all the people in the background there being kept back, but then it's revealed that 4 of them float from the crowd. That could have been disastrous. If we're being realistic here, I think, to be honest, and this isn't really a complaint, it's just if they really wanted to ground it in reality, but it probably would have been too dark. There's no reason why those Kryptonians wouldn't have just lasered through all of those people. It just would have shown such, like, well, we're screwing you over, so why would we wait to do this? But regardless, I thought it was a nice surprise anyway. And this is where a bunch of stuff is going down. One thing that I love about Superman and Lois, and I've said this a bunch of times before, is there's certain episodes, and there's been quite a lot of them this season, where they do such a good job at cutting to different scenes with different characters, all leading up. Like, the pacing gets faster and faster, the stakes get higher and higher, and they keep contrasting between different scenes when it's reaching the climax, so it really adds for a hypey kind of third quarter to the episode, if you know what I mean. That's one of my favorite things about episodes like this. But I was also very, very surprised with how much Man of Steel vibes they went with here. I just didn't know if they were going to do it, but wow. There were like buildings smashing. It was getting real bad. I also really liked how Lois Lane was on the megaphone, kind of taking control. She's used to a lot of dangerous situations, so she's telling the people of Metropolis that it's under attack and that they need to go. And this is where I clocked onto it straight away when she was asking about a camera to go live with, and that's when she got told that this Janet, or whatever her name was, went up to the roof to get a clear shot of the action. And I just thought, don't go to the roof, Lois. That's exactly what happened on the other Earth. But then it cuts to, like, Superman. Obviously, he was going after the other Kryptonians. But yet again, I didn't expect this level of destruction. Like, they're heat visioning the crap out of the city. I love that scene, though, where Superman tackles another one, and they go straight through the office building. I know Man of Steel is going to be probably the most repeated word in this video, but Man of Steel vibes. Meanwhile, Leslie Larr is knocking the crap out of John Henry Irons' armor and helmet, but he sends her flying back. He even grabs her by the neck, decks her to the floor, calls for his hammer, but unfortunately it's offline. That's when another Kryptonian arrives, and one thing I love with what they're doing here is they're portraying Steel so well, and how he can completely hold his own against multiple Kryptonians. But in the middle of all of this, Sarah goes to the party, tells Jordan that they are in fact moving, but the reason they also went back to all of this is so that the whole bunch of teenagers there could view what's going on the news as well, and I thought this was a nice way to do it, because after all, it was Lois Lane on the news who died on that other Earth from the heat vision of Superman. So this was a nice way to line those shots up again of our Earth, Earth Prime, Lois being very, composed on the TV again when all this crap is going on in the background. Because that's something I absolutely loved. Lois on the roof with Janet, when she tells that we need to tell the people what's going on, so in the spirit of Lois Lane as well, completely fearless and doing like what she can to completely help out and try and keep the citizens calm. But again, I do just want to say I love how composed Elizabeth Tulloch played this moment with Lois, because casually, there's a little building blowing up in the background at this point, and she's just like, right, okay, guys, you know, we gotta carry on, guys. But yeah, Leslie Larr was rising up in the background. This was quite creepy in the exact same fashion as what Kal-El did, Superman, the evil Superman on the other Earth. And even John in this moment at the party was like, this is how she died. So he must have been convinced in this moment that this was the same sequence of events going on, and it was, to be fair. But luckily, John summons the hammer, launches it, and it hits Leslie Larr just in time. But I thought, oh man, that was actually pretty screwed up though, because if it wasn't for John Henry Irons, who isn't Superman, he has enough on his plate, but it just shows how good of a hero he is, to be honest. But Clark would have been devastated. Like, he wasn't there to save his wife, and it was a good thing that for once they didn't have Superman try and save Lois Lane like it always does, and I'm glad they did go with this option. But it also just shows you that if Steel didn't do that, it could have... that would have been it. It all settles down because Superman has taken down the rest of the Kryptonians, and who's left? The Eradicator. They try and approach him, but they get completely blasted back. The Eradicator's powers seem to be... I was theorizing at the end. I was like, what kind of powers is this going to grant him? With all those Kryptonians in him, is it kind of just going to stack the powers, since when humans get Kryptonian mind taking over them, like, they get powers? So does this mean if you get multiple ones of them, it stacks and stacks and stacks? And I suppose it kind of does, because he's very, very powerful. That's when we also cut back to the party, and we have Jordan kind of freaking out. And I felt bad for him, only because, like, I don't need to explain Jordan to you and what Sarah means to him being with him, because it's something that he can finally feel connected with, and he obviously feels a lot more connected now compared to the first 3 or 4 episodes of this season. He's a lot more in the fold now. He's kind of harnessed his powers a little bit, but Sarah's a big anchor for him in terms of helping his mental health and all kinds of things. And they start discussing already with, I don't know how we're going to work if we can't really see each other. We'll never see each other. But that's kind of benched, because that's when we have General Lane arrive at the party. I mean, he's with the DOD. Of course, he can track his grandsons to a freaking... and I love that line, by the way. Do I look like somebody who gives classified intel to drunk teenagers? We're at the end of the episode now, so they get in the car to drive Sarah home and get the boys to safety. We have Leslie Larr in cuffs. They realize that there's a whole bunch of voices in Edge now, and they kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, saying that's why they never found the Eradicator, because somehow Edge made himself the Eradicator, and that would explain his powers and the 4 new subjects. And when they were figuring out where would he go, Leslie Larr's like, where do you think? To make more. And so Edge comes down in the middle of the road, the car smacks into him as if like they hit a wall, because that would be like, you know, it's like when somebody runs into Superman, it's like literally running into a man of steel. And I really like that moment where Jonathan got the gun out of the glove compartment. I was thinking like, why is the Eradicator just standing there? This is really stupid, but it was more of a flex because he just disappeared when he flew away instantly. And he grabbed Jordan. I love the drama of this moment. It was quite predictable from the promo, with how the only reason Clark and Lois would be that distraught in the promo was that something would happen to the sons. I probably would have put my money on Jonathan though over Jordan. This is when Jonathan gets the LT, calls Superman, and I love it when Superman touched down, because naturally Clark's eyes went like wide open, but there was this kind of moment where he couldn't even say another word before flying off, yet there was so much conveyed in that moment, because he also wanted to like comfort Jordan, but he just flew. It was just such a... it's like his life flashed before his eyes, and, you know, praise to Tyler Hoechlin there. Superman flies to find Jordan in space, but obviously he's not really having any luck. We cut to the Eradicator, though, with Jordan, and he uses his powers to put Zeta Rho into Jordan, which is something I didn't necessarily expect. I was like, okay, so well and truly, what is he going to do here? But it just turns out that truly, Zeta Rho, a part of his grand plan here, was, of course, for himself to be put into the body. So now, we've got dickhead Zeta Rho back, old man Zeta Rho in the body of Jordan, and that is probably a bit more pimped out than your average native Smallville human, because Jordan is already half Kryptonian, so maybe that might mean for the next episode that compared to just Kyle getting powers, Jordan will be a bit more overpowered, maybe? And that scene, though, the one that we saw in the promo very briefly, when Superman comes down to Lois... Screw anyone who says Tyler Hoechlin's a bad actor. I just don't understand anyone who says that, because he was broken. They both were. Both impeccable acting. It's like, he looks so devastated. He says that Edge took Jordan. I tried to follow him. It was too late. And she's like, no, go find him. I love, Elizabeth Tulloch. She's like, for a family who's been through a lot of danger, but it's always all right in the end. To actually have something happen like this, though, where I'm not trying to say that they thought themselves to be invincible, but they definitely, I don't think, have had something to this level of concern, obviously with one of their sons being taken away. So yeah, just the guilt that Superman must feel being so powerful yet powerless in this moment. I'm getting chills, just seriously, like hair standing on end everywhere, just going through that scene again in my head. And they're just like, what are we gonna do? And also, the only issue I kind of had, they probably should have shown a scene of Superman going back after, you know, not finding Jordan or listening out to him in space, going back down to Jonathan and just putting him somewhere safe, because you would have thought when, like, Clark was hugging Lois in that moment, it's like, don't forget that Morgan Edge could also, well, the Eradicator could just go back to that road and grab the other son as well. And, you know, obviously General Lane kind of looked out of it being in the car crash. So you just have to think, I'm going to tell myself behind the scenes, Superman, before going to Lois and telling her, went back to the road, got Jonathan, popped him in the DOD or something for safety. But they didn't show that. I'm only saying that because, obviously, if he didn't do that, that's a massive oversight. Because, as I said, Morgan Edge could just go back there and bring him to Jordan, or should I say Zeta Rho now, and put another Kryptonian in him. So yeah, just another little nitpick there. Now, as for, like, Jordan going evil, or technically this isn't him, this is Zeta Rho, it's probably one of the most predictable things, because a lot of us were saying, okay, in the longevity of the show, I wasn't even necessarily speculating about Season 1, but you probably could see a kind of storyline where they might try and make Jordan kind of find himself, be happy, but something might happen where he might go evil in the long-distant future, and Jonathan Kent will be the good Superboy, and eventually, and then maybe Jordan will be the bad one. And they're kind of going somewhere of that route. I'm glad it's not as cliche or as straight line predictable as the way I just laid that out. But yeah, they have done it now, that Jordan is kind of evil even without being Jordan. I wonder how they're going to get through to this. I do see it kind of going a bit predictable with how, don't forget that if you have a strong will of mind, kind of like Clark did with eradicating Zod out of his mind just through sheer will of Superman, I'm guessing they might play a similar mirrored story with Jordan breaking through the will of Zeta Rho, which is going to be a strong will, because think about it, their planet Krypton's destroyed. You have one mission, and that's to bring your existence back and your people's existence. You're not going to go down easy with that, so Jordan's going to have to really try hard to burst through that, but it would provide for like a like father, like son heroic attitude to burst through that parasite in your brain. But yet again, that seems a bit too straightforward for me, so I do wonder how they're going to do it. But at the end of the day, I thought it was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the next episode is the finale, and from the promo, it looks dramatic. We see Clark in space screaming Jordan, trying to reach out to him within his own mind to maybe try and crack through. There's even a moment where he seems to be himself. He says, please help me. I don't want to die. So it looks like Jordan will come back, but why is there still a situation of not just grabbing him and taking him away? So, the season finale looks like it's cooking up some exciting stuff, guys. So let me know everything you thought of this episode down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of my theories, but give me your own as well. Expand upon them. Any issues or any things that I maybe perhaps missed. And other than that, I just recommend you to check out my Stargirl breakdown, which I posted a little bit earlier today, and look forward to my Titans breakdowns tomorrow and Friday. 3 videos, 2 tomorrow and the 3rd episode on Friday, just because I don't want to spam it everywhere. But as always, guys, like the video, subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this. Click the show more button on the top pinned comment, which is my comment, and you will see links to my Twitter, my Discord server. I do really recommend following me and joining that server. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. I'll see you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.